two, and I'm like, so I was getting really stressed, but I finally go, you know what? I'm going to put it aside for 3 months. And that was hard for me because I am a deadline person, and see what happens. And it ended up being a year because she still wouldn't take it after 3 months. So that was very frustrating. But we ended up coming to an agreement, and the story is now up for a short story award. So I'm really excited about that. But I think to get to the point where I can't compromise with somebody because I'm a huge non-confrontational person, and seeing how far do I take my passion compared to wanting to work with somebody who's trying to help me get better. That was a real struggle for me because, again, I was really fighting without fighting, and that was hard to kind of see the balance in that. So, but now it's good. So I'm glad I took a break and it all worked out.
I have two different kinds of frustrations with what I do. One is the project that never ends. I work with I work with a couple of companies, like I'm a commercial graphic designer and photographer for our local hospital. And there's times where they will just go through, they'll give me a project to do, and I'll do it, and I'll give it to them, and they just want an endless amount of changes that never seem to end, ever. And what ends up happening is, this is what's crazy about it. What ends up happening is it ends up coming back almost full circle to where I started it before they're happy with it. And I'm like, that's where I started. This is why I submitted this, because I knew this is what you needed. Why didn't you just listen to me in the first place, which is why you hired me to be the graphic designer. I'm the guy who's the artistic talent here, not you. So why are you making me do all this when it comes back to my original idea? You know, I mean, it's that kind of thing is that's happened to me multiple times on different projects. So that is very frustrating to me. It may not be the same kind of frustration that you might have been asking, but that frustrates me more than anything. And the projects that I start on for companies, and I get them done and I turn them in, and they never go anywhere. They never get published, or they never get turned into whatever finished product they're supposed to be.
But they bought the rights.
But they bought, they already, they paid me to do the work, and that's fine. I'm not frustrated with that end of it. But I'm like, 3 years later, I'm like, that project I did 3 years ago, whatever happened to that? Oh, well, the board decided this or that, so they didn't really do anything. I'm like, or it's put on indefinite hold.
Sure.
And you're like, gosh, it's one of those things that's frustrating, because it's not about the pay. You want to see your work.
See the light of day.
Yeah, you worked hard on that to get it out, even if it's just a graphic design, let alone if it's an illustration. But you're still like, man, I remember I spent a week on that, and sure, you paid me for it, and that's all great, but why is it just sitting in limbo?
Sure.
Why has that project never moved anywhere? Who is responsible for that? Because I want to hammer them. That kind of thing.
Why cook a meal no one's going to eat?
Yeah, exactly. And you just feel like you wasted your time. Even though you got paid for it,
Sure.
you still feel like hey, I would have rather done one of my own paintings to sell at conventions than to have wasted my time on that and get paid for it when it was going to go nowhere. That to me is more frustrating than any monetary issue, is that you did work that goes nowhere.
Right.
At least if I do my own work, even if I don't do it for some company, I'm still going to sell it at conventions as my own project, and it'll still sell, and therefore I'm more fulfilled. That
that someone will see it.
Yeah, that someone will see it, like it, buy it. It's something I did, I created, and selling it or whatever. Those are two of the most frustrating things for me when it comes to, as far as having like artist's block and not being able to finish. I don't get that too much. I pretty much, when I'm doing a project, I get a full finished idea in my head, and I just work towards that goal, whether it takes me a day or a week or a month or whatever, or if it's one of those projects that I have to do little at a time because I have other paying projects come in and I've always got to kind of shovel that up. That's fine too, as long as it gets done. But I don't really struggle with the whole artist block or writer. Well, I write, but not enough to call having writer's block. But I just don't have that too often with the art thing, because I don't have to struggle with an idea too often. It usually comes to me pretty quick, and then I just have to work on getting it done then after that. So.
And really along that same line, I have that same frustration, because I've made some costume pieces for other people. And it's one of those things, okay, you give me your money, I did what you wanted, have it, take it, it's in the world, whatever you do with it, fine. But the first headdress I ever made, I designed it, start to finish, and it was one of those, they put it out in the world, said, I'm going to this masquerade ball, it's a really big deal, I really want a mask, but I don't know what I want. If you design it for me and I like it, I'll pay you for it. So I designed this huge, it wasn't just a mask, it was a headdress. And she loved it so much, and she's like, I want that. Pays me for it, I make it, it's like my baby. I ship it, send it to her, and they end up not going, which is perfectly fine. I mean, there's stuff that happens, you can't go. And I watched the next year, she had taken it apart just to take the horns off of it to use for a different project. And I was like, I know she paid me, it's not mine anymore, but it's like
It's still
dismantling your
yours.
child. And because I was so proud, and then just took it apart. It's like, I can't, I've got to back away.
Yeah.
I can't even look at this right now. I mean, I was really upset about that. And it's like, with my costumes, I haven't really hit a block, because my thing with each costume is the next competition costume, I'm going to have something new that I've never done before. Because I love to challenge myself. I like to make it better. And sometimes I will come across something where I was like, I really have no idea how to do this. I don't know how to write the C+ for these NeoPixels and how to do this and stuff. And really just, I research a lot and I get over it, so it's not really frustrating to me. But the process of me putting all this love and time into this and then entering into a contest online where all they see is an example of maybe what it's going to look like, and then they're like, no, we can't accept you. That's the frustrating part when you watch the contest later and you're like, they should have accepted me. And it's mostly contest related. I've had some burnout. That's really my only problems. I worked on my Poison Ivy for about a year and a half, and after I was done with her, I hated leather. I didn't want to wear leather. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to smell it. I didn't want to do anything with leather. So it took me a long time to get back to where I could touch it. But I am really bad time maintenance wise, because I go and I work a 24-hour shift, and I never sleep well there because I'm afraid I'll miss a page. But if I wake up throughout the night, I'll be really exhausted the next day, so I don't want to do anything. So I've had to take myself and say, okay, when I go home, I'm going to do an hour of this, an hour of this, an hour of this, to make sure something gets done every single day. It's like, I'm going to clean for an hour. I'm going to work on this particular cosplay for an hour. I'm going to work on this cosplay for an hour. I'm going to work on this commission for an hour. So I can touch everything. I don't get burnt out. And then I feel like I've done something. And it's only an hour. It's not really a whole lot. Half the time I don't do the cleaning, but that's okay. That can slip through the cracks. No one paid me to do it. So, but it's one of those things, because otherwise, honestly, I'll go home, I will find the bed, I will lay in the bed. The bed and I will mold into one continuous organism, and that's how my day is going to go. But especially during con season, because I've got a gigantic costume that I'm still working on, and it's hard. It's taken me a long time to step back and be like, I need to break this down. I cannot keep looking at the big picture, because I keep looking at the big picture and I'm overwhelmed. Everything just, because I know, okay, I'm not a seamstress. I'm still learning to sew. I'm going to sew this entire gigantic ball gown costume. I'm going to top it with armor, with stuff I've never worked on before. I'm going to fill it with NeoPixel lights that I've got to script in so it looks like fire. Then I've got to do this, and I've got to do this. And I'm sitting over here, it's like, there's no way. But I step back, it's like, I'm going to do the back part of the dress. And that's the only way I can get through it on my really big costumes, because it's just the overwhelming thought process of the final picture. That's really the only thing that frustrates me when I'm making my costumes.
I know as a writer, I do the same thing. I pick at it. I'm going to write a little of this. I'm going to write a little of this. And organically, it comes together to a final product. But looking at it as a whole, I want to run screaming.
Oh,
But I have to,
absolutely.
what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Now,
And I agree with you. I do that even with my paintings too, is sometimes, even though I have it up here, the final, this is what it's going to look like, I still got to pick a starting point. And, I still have to do it somehow. And sometimes I guess that could be part of the frustration, is you're like, where do I kind of start on this? I mean, sure, there's a background, there's a middle ground, all that stuff. But you still are like, do I work on the characters from this way, or should I maybe work? There is always that, where you're kind of, where do you, and you do. Sometimes I just have to step back and go, wait a minute, forget all that. Let's do these couple of guys over here. Let's do a background. Let's do this and that. And then put it all together. And then sometimes it starts, I'm like, oh, I know what I want to do. Okay, there it is. Boom, 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 boom. Then it becomes the finished project, so.
And that's something I have to do at work, because there's days where you're down like 4 reports, these giant several page reports, and I'll sit there and I don't want to do it.